So now it's time that we begin talking about debugging. Now, what is debugging? So debugging is the process of identifying and fixing errors or bugs in your code. Okay. Now, of course, it's evident, like if you're writing software programs, it's evident that you will of course face errors, and debugging can save you or save your time by helping you fix and identify errors. All right. Now we'll talk about a few things like logging options, debugging options in browsers, and breakpoints. All right. Now, first thing I want to talk about is logging options. Now, when you are working with JavaScript, console is a powerful tool for debugging and logging any sort of information during the course of execution of your program. You can use it to print errors, print messages, and even display the output of your JavaScript code. Now, let me paste something over here. Okay, so here you can see different options of console log over here. Okay, I'll just format this a bit. All right, so these are different ways in which you can make use of console log. Right, so you can see over here I'm doing a general console log message. Okay, you can see I'm logging a console log. I'm doing a console log hello world. It's a general message that I'm printing. This is a warning that I'm printing over here. Okay, and this is an error that I'm logging over here. All right, and this is a table that I'm displaying over here. So if I save this, you'll see the output, the general message, the warning which is being displayed in yellow, you can see, and an error, okay, which is being displayed in red, and you have some information being displayed in the table format. All right, so this console is one of the most powerful tools that developers often use, and you can add console log statements across your program, and depending on the output that you get, you can debug or identify the issue. So this is about console. Now I would like to show you some example over here and display something and teach you something beyond console. So here's a piece of code that I have. Okay, now this is a simple function called calculate sum. Okay, what it's doing is it is accepting two arguments over here as a and b. All right, and you can see here I have sum a plus b, console log, which is wherein I'm like displaying the result, which is sum, and I'm also returning the result over here. Okay, now I would save this and you'll simply get sum as 15. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just comment this piece of code over here. Okay, all right, so this is done. Okay, you'll see sum 15. Right, so everything is good, but let's say I want to see how the program is being executed and I want to debug this code. All right, now the program is being executed in the browser, and all the modern browsers these days have a lot of debugging tools inbuilt. All right, so if I expand this a bit, okay, this browser window, here you can see tabs. Okay, if you're wondering how I came into this kind of a view, so this is my normal browser. I'm doing right click inspect. You'll see this view, and this is a console where I'm seeing the output. Now over here you will have an option of source over here, right? And you can see some tools over here. So here you can see of source code. Okay, so this is a source code that we are working on, and here you can see more information. Okay, now what I can do is I can actually see the execution of the program over here, and for that I can even stop the program in between. And what I can do is let me click over here. You can see line 21. So you can see this line got highlighted over here this way. Now what I did over here is I have set a breakpoint over here. Now what do you mean by breakpoints? Now breakpoint is a point in the code which is when hit, the execution of the code will pause at that moment. Okay, so when the browser starts executing this line of code, it will just pause over there and hang in there, allowing you to inspect what is happening. Okay, so you are actually pausing the execution of the code at this point. Okay, and that is what I'm doing in browser. Now let me refresh. So you can see the code has paused its execution. Now if I go to console over here, I won't see any output because console.log is the next statement over here, and this is not yet executed, and the execution has paused over here. You can see it's highlighted in orange over here, and you can see over here this is what our breakpoint is. Now over here at the bottom right, you will see scope and watch. So scope meaning these are the variables that exist in the scope. Okay, in the global scope there is a lot that exists. you have in local scope, you have A, B, and sum over here. Okay. Watch meaning you can add any sort of variable over here or anything if you wish to add, if you wish to watch them over here. Okay. And what you can watch is you can keep a track of specific variables or even expressions. So let's say I wish to keep a track of sum over here. Okay. So you can see nothing is available. Okay. And if I set one more breakpoint over here, which I can of course do. Okay. So I'll set a breakpoint on the next line or over here, let's say. Okay. And you have this resume button over here. So right now the execution is stopped over here on line 21. I can say resume, and now the execution is on line 23, and I can see the value of sum over here. So the value of sum earlier was undefined. Now it's 15 because this has finished execution. One amazing thing that happens over here is in the source code over here, you can see like the values being displayed here on the right hand side. So sum has a value of 15, A has a value of 5, B has a value of 10, and so on. Okay, so this is pretty useful, and with the help of breakpoints you can actually watch as to what is happening at every step in your code. Now when talking about breakpoints, if you come over here on line number, and if you do right click, you have an option to add a conditional breakpoint, as you can see over here. Now, what is a conditional breakpoint? So conditional breakpoint is only activated when a certain condition is met. Okay. Now for that, let me give you another example of code. So what I will do is I'll finish executing this code by clicking on resume. Okay. Now there's no breakpoint after this one. Okay. And I'll disable these breakpoints. Okay. You can disable the breakpoints by clicking on it again. All right. Now if you go to console, you'll see the output as sum 15 because the program has done executing. All right. Now what I will do is I would simply comment this code here. Okay. I would add a new code, which is just a loop. Okay. Now if you save this over here, and if you head over to console, you'll see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 being printed until 5. It's a pretty straightforward and simple for loop, right? Now I want to teach you about a conditional breakpoint. So what I can do over here is I'll come over here. Let's say I want to add a breakpoint over here on line 30 when the condition is 3 or when I is equal to 3. Now one way is I can have a breakpoint over here. I can run the program and I can like watch the value of I over here. Okay. I can like get rid of this. Okay. And I can add a value of I over here. Something like this. I0. And I can try coming until the breakpoint, until the value of I is 3. This is one way. Okay. Or another way over here is, another way is you can right click over here. You can say add conditional breakpoint. Okay. And it will ask you for the expression to check before. Oops. So one second. So I'll disable this. It will ask you to, it will ask you to enter the expression to check before pausing. Okay. And it can be any expression, you can see. So I'll say I, and this is my condition is 3. So when I is 3, I want this breakpoint to be activated, and you can see the condition. Oops, I just disabled it. One second. I'll add it again. I is equal to 3. Okay. So this question mark tells you that this is a conditional breakpoint, right? Now let me start the execution of code. Okay. So it has stopped here, and it has gone from iteration 0, 1, 2, and it is now stopping at the value of I becoming 3. Okay. So you can see I is 3. If I refresh it, or if I start it again, and if I restart the program, you'll see it is stopping when I is 3. All right. So this is what conditional breakpoint is. If you don't want to like press resume again, and if you want your program to hold at a certain point when a certain condition is met, you can of course make use of conditional breakpoint. So I'll just get rid of this breakpoint. All right. And I will finish executing this particular code. You're clear on the watch expressions as well. You can add any sort of expression over here. Okay. I into 2, I into 3, in all of that. Okay. You can add those sort of expressions. So now let me give you an overview of these buttons that you see that can be helpful for the execution. All right. So here, if you comment this out. I'll comment this code and I'll add this code over here. Okay. Now over here we have this code wherein we have this outer function. Okay, wherein we are saying this is our outer function, and then we are calling this inner function. So this function is being called within this outer function, and we are doing a call to outer function. Pretty simple, right? Now if you go to console, if you save this, you'll get this output sort of. Oops. So I should have extended this over here. Okay, so you will get this sort of output inside outer function. All right. I'll come to sources over here. Scroll down. Okay, and let us say I have added a breakpoint over here. Okay, I'll delete this watch expression. Okay, I'll refresh this. So you can see right now the program is halted over here, console.log, and we are not seeing any output right now because we have not executed this line. We are just holding this. Okay, holding the execution over here. Now what you can do is, let's say I want to go through the code step by step. So you can make use of these buttons over here. So this is the resume button, of course, which we can make use of to resume the execution of the code. You have, if you hover on this, you'll see step over the next function call. Okay, so this particular button will move to the next line without going inside the function. For example, here we have a function, right? We don't want to step into the function, so we can make use of this. The next button we have is step into the next function call. So this will step into or go inside the function call, and it will show you the step by step over there. Okay, and this this button is for step out of the current function. So you can step out of the current function, and then this is for step. Okay, so what you can do is you can either make use of step over here. You can see you will go step by step. Okay, inner function, and you can see inside inner function, inside outer function. Okay, and you can just finish the execution like this. Okay, so this is done. Okay, you're going inside like inside some inside this kind of file over here. Okay, we went in from here. Okay, so I'll just say resume, and I'll set the breakpoint over here. I'll just refresh this. Okay, so you're now stopping over here. Okay, let's say I don't want to go inside enough function, so I can do step over. I can come over here, and I'll straight away, I won't. So you can see the program execution didn't go inside this function. It just skipped that, and you have the output over here, right? Let me do resume. Let me show you this button over here. This will allow you to step into the next function call. You can see you can step into. So right now you're debugging inside the inner function over here, right? I'll say resume, and I'll just refresh. You have this button over here which will help you step out of the current function. So if you say this, you'll just come to the outer function. You can see, and you have inside outer and inside inner because both of them were executed inside this function, and you just choose to step out of this, right? So yeah, these are some of the buttons that exist for assisting you in seeing how your code execution is flowing through. All right. So right now what I would do is I would say resume, and I'll finish the execution of the code. All right. Now let me talk a little bit about this network tab. Okay, where you can see your API calls happening. All right. So I would simply comment this out. Okay, and I would paste some code that involves us doing an API call. Okay, so if you see over here, okay, this code over here, we are creating a function over here called fetch data. Okay, and we are making use of fetch over here, and we are calling this API. It's a real API. We're calling this API, and we are making use of await keyword. We're getting the response. We are getting the JSON from the response. Okay, and we are just printing it onto the console, right? And we have this in try catch. If there is an error, we display the error. Now let me save this, and if you come over here, oops, so there is a breakpoint enabled. All right, now if I resume, okay, there's no breakpoint now. Now if you come to console, you will see the data being printed on the console, right? This is all the data. Now what is this API? First of all, if you have that query, this is the endpoint that we are calling. Okay, this is the endpoint. You can see, you can just hit this endpoint in the browser, and you'll see this endpoint over here. Okay, Now, what is JSON placeholder.typecode.com? Did I build it? No, absolutely not. So it's a free API, okay, or a free fake API, mock APIs that you can make use of to learn something. Okay, so you can see these are the different endpoints. Users will give you 10 users, to-dos will give you 200 to-dos, photos will give you 5,000 photos, and all of that. So if you are building something and if you want to make use of some dummy data over here, you can make use of this API over here. Okay, so that is what I'm using. Okay, now here if you come, you can head over to network tabs. Okay, network tab has these filters, all, fetch or XHR. So if you filter this, okay, you will see all the fetch API calls that we are doing over here. Okay, and here at the bottom you'll see all the list. Okay, so you can see, first of all, if I refresh over here, you'll see like the activity over here. You can see there are a few API calls happening over here. Okay, now if I just want to see the fetch API call, I can just select this and you'll see just one, which is users. Okay, now if I expand this over here, okay, let me, oops, I'm not able to expand. Yeah, so now I'm able to see things. Okay, so I selected fetch over here and you can see users API being called. Now what is users? It's the endpoint that we are calling over here. Okay, and here you'll see a lot of information as to how this network call happened. What is the response you got? So you can see there's a request URL that we did from our application, get request. You got this as a response. This was a time when, or remote address, I'm sorry, not time, remote address when this happened. Okay, you have access control origin, all the headers related information that you can see over here. Okay, it's pretty long. Okay, everything that you can see. Preview is a preview over here. Response will display the response that you get from after making the API call, and that is it's also giving you a preview of the response, right? You have initiator, okay, timings. So all the information, a lot of information about the API call. So if you are making API call and if you want to debug as to what response you're getting from the server, whether the backend is sending the right response, let's say if you're working on like React projects or you're working on JavaScript stuff where you're doing an API call. So in that case, you can see if the backend is sending the data correctly to you and in the desired format that you expect. So these tools can assist you in a great way. It gives you everything like headers, preview, response. It will also show you the authentication information if your API is authenticated. All right. So yeah, that's how you can make use of network calls to fetch requests or details of any request, including request URLs, statuses, headers, and responses, and so on. Now, let me add one more piece of code over here. Okay, so we are done with this API call thing. So I'll just comment this out here. Okay, let me come here. I'll just paste this. Okay, so here we have few functions, and we are doing a nested function call. So within function A, we are calling B. Within B, we are calling C, and within C, we are calling A. Right? Sorry, within C, we are not calling anything. A is being called separately. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so A is where everything starts. Okay, so I'll save this. Okay, and on the output you'll see A, B, and C. Now if you go to sources over here, okay, I'll add a breakpoint here. Okay, and let me refresh. Okay, now there is this tab over here that you will see called call stack over here. So right now you are in A, function A. Okay, now let me set the breakpoint over here and over here. Okay, and let me say resume. So you can see right now the call stack is A and then B, right? So from function A, you have gone to function B. So function A, you have left the function A at line 61 over here. You can see. And in function B, you are at line 65 right now. Okay, if I say resume again, so you have left function B at line 66 over here, right? So this is how it's call stack can give you an overview of how calls are happening, and it can show you the entire function chain. It helps you understand how you arrive basically at a particular point. So here, how did I arrive at that point? I don't know. I'm checking out someone else's code. So I can go to call stack over here. I can put up a breakpoint and I can see from where I'm coming over here, right? So yeah, that's call stack. I'll just disable all the breakpoints And yeah, I hope this is useful. Remember, debugging, it's important that you understand debugging, because there will be scenarios where you want to debug code, and you might also debug code just to understand what is happening. So if you have been given access to someone else's code, and if you are not understanding how this output is coming, so you might want to see step by step as to how the code is being executed. All right, I hope this has been useful.